Hello, everyone. You're listening to Denpa, an otaku podcast. If you've been following the news on Studio Sunrise, a studio renowned for making mecha shows, at all, you may know that Studio Sunrise is producing a sequel to their mega popular series Code Geass. You may even be outraged that they would revive a series so perfectly concluded years ago, or you may be just excited to see your favorite characters from the show traipse across the stage once again. But where did Sunrise get their ideas? Where did they find the creative depth to combine the mystical with the mechanical, the academic with the authoritarian, the many genres, themes, and twists of Code Geass together? Well, maybe they found it in another franchise of theirs with robots. You know, the one they call Gundam. Today on Denpa, the many works of Sunrise discussed in depth, from Code Geass to Gundam.
So, today we're going to be talking about an anime series that is beloved by many. Back when the fandom was more concentrated, this series was known by all as a masterpiece, and pretty much everybody watched it.
Oh yeah, everyone was going apeshit over it.
Yeah.
And that show, it's now in the process of selling out, much like we are.
Yay!
Code Geass, Lelouch of the Rebellion, by none other than Studio Sunrise.
So why would they do this? Okay, so R2 wraps up really nicely.
Well, the whole premise of the Rebuild movies is that they take place in an alternative universe.
Really?
Yeah, so the whole premise of the movies is they take place in a separate timeline.
Okay.
So the anime itself is a totally separate entity.
So that's
complete.
Movies.
Yeah, that's complete. Right, that's why, at least officially, Sunrise has never referred to this as R3. They never called it that, at least in any official capacity.
Yeah, it's just fans hyping it up. But
so, in this alternative world...
Well, there's not really a reason for this alternative world to exist other than selling out, right?
I'm pretty sure some executive at Sunrise... they saw the numbers for Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans, and they were like, hey guys.
Okay.
So you know that meme where those guys sitting around in a conference room?
Okay.
So, I imagine, right, there's this Sunrise executive who's in the first panel being like, alright guys, we need ideas for a new mecha show. And then one person says, how about we make a third season of Code Geass where he's not actually dead? And the second guy says, how about we make a third season of Love Live? And the fourth guy says, how about we try some new and original mecha shows? Maybe go back to the Universal Century timeline of Gundam. And then he gets thrown out of the building by the guy in the beginning.
Unfortunate. Yeah, the way the market is nowadays, there are people taking risks, but it's not really working out, right?
Yeah, I don't think risk-taking in the current anime environment is especially...
Well, not
rewarded.
Even in the current anime environment. You see a lot of reboots and continuations.
Well, it's the same thing what happened of a lot of Western movie franchises.
Yeah.
Where they kept getting remade and they kept getting sequels. Because from a financial perspective, if you're an accountant...
They're proven.
Yeah, there's a proven fan base. And there's a proven audience for these existing intellectual properties. Whereas if you propose some new radical idea, there's no guarantee it's going to make you any money.
Okay, but then the problem with that is that you can run into the sort of problems that the game Crisis and the series had, right? Because the first Crisis game, it appealed to a very specific subsection of people who had extremely high performance PCs who could run Crisis. And then after they could run Crisis, they would get enraptured in the way the gameplay worked, right? But then after that, they made the shift to console, first of all, because that's where the money is, or that's where they thought the money would be. And
if
then
you said that nowadays, people would think you're crazy.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure what happened. I think EA was involved in it somehow.
Oh, of course. If EA isn't involved, then of course it went to shit.
Yeah, it went to shit. The second game wasn't bad. It's just it wasn't anything like the first game. So they alienated a lot of the first game's fan base, and they tried to get it back with the third game, but then the third game went to more shit.
Isn't this the exact opposite though? They're doing what people want with.
Well, but in this case, people want it, but then also people have concerns about it, right? Because R2 was wrapped up so perfectly that it's an iconic storyline. Like, when I was in middle school, someone told me what happened, and it stuck with me even though I'd never seen the anime, because the entire way the plot works out is iconic in a sense, right?
I guess so. Watching it today, the show has a lot of flaws, I think, especially in the second season.
A lot of people have said that it's because they knew where they wanted to go with the ending, right? They knew they wanted to do the
From
zero
what I
record.
heard, so for the second season of Code Geass, the time slot where it aired on Japanese television was changed.
Okay.
So the first season changed in a traditional late night anime block.
Okay.
But then they moved it up to a more prime time position, is my
Interesting.
understanding.
So how would that affect it?
So first off, they had to make changes so people who hadn't seen the first season and were just tuning into the second would be able to jump right in and not be confused about what's going on. So I think that influenced some of the decision to have Lelouch have amnesia induced by the Emperor, right? And that's part of the reason why they introduced Rolo, is so that people who are new to the show, early on, they wouldn't be confused by what's going on. The beginning of the second season is more or less the exact same thing what happens in the first few episodes of season 1.
Yeah, but instead of gaining his
Geass,
power,
right?
he remembers.
He remembers, and they do that shit in the casino.
Yeah.
Where they fucking drop the tower.
Yeah.
I'm not a physics expert, but I feel like standing inside a tower that's collapsing would not protect you when it hits the ground.
I don't know. Sounds pretty logical to me. I don't remember exactly what happened that season.
So
what I do remember was that they had Colin in a bunny suit.
Okay, so here's what happened. So there's this big tower. It's a casino.
Okay.
And Lelouch's tactical plan is he puts a bunch of explosives around the base of the tower, and then.
But I thought he had amnesia.
Well, he gets it. Well, he
gets his memories back.
He gets his memories back, and then he devises his plan where he blows up the tower, and the tower starts falling.
Okay.
And then it creates a path, the falling tower, into the Chinese embassy.
Huh.
But
Interesting.
I feel like the force of impact from being in that tower as it falls would just kill them all.
I don't really know if there's. No, there's definitely force of impact. I was thinking of zero gravity situation.
Well, it'd be like if an elevator cord snapped and it just.
Yeah, you died.
Yeah, there's impulse, right? They have a lot of velocity falling inside the tower, and then it hits the ground, and there's a sudden change to no momentum. So they'd experience a large impulse, which presumably would just destroy all of their nightmare frames and kill them. Okay. This is
giant robots.
This is totally irrelevant to the core issue.
Thinking about like the first scene, right? So in the first scene in R1, where he gets his Geass and he orders all those guys to kill themselves, that's already impactful, right? Because a bunch of people just suicided.
Yeah, but then they do the exact same thing in R2, almost.
Yeah, but like the Japanese, right? They think suicide is shameful. Right.
I know. I thought that was like the honorable way to die. Isn't that whole? Everyone memes about it now, but seppuku.
Okay, seppuku is if you dishonor yourself and then you kill yourself. So it's like to atone yourself out of the honor, right? But having to get to that point in the first place is dishonorable. And in modern day society, if your kid kills yourself, your police will help you cover it up as a homicide. So it's not exactly appreciated to kill yourself in Japanese society, which made me think that it might actually have been more impactful for the Japanese audience seeing that scene, because they just kill themselves, right? Like, it could reinforce how absolute the power of Geass is. But at the same time, I don't know, like, to what extent Britannia is supposed to mimic modern-day cultures, so...
Well, isn't Britannia supposed to be some sort of eugenic Nazi-German fusion with the British Empire?
Yeah, which is weird. If you think about it, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, they have all the policies, like the racial purity, the eugenics aspect of the Reich.
Evolution!
They didn't even control the British Isles, I don't think. I think in the timeline of the show, the royal family flees to the
North
colonies
America
or some shit.
No, what happened? Like, Europe is controlled by the European Union, which somehow exists.
I think the explanation in Universe is Napoleon takes over Russia successfully, and then he makes his grand European alliance or something.
Yeah.
He like doesn't lose at Trafalgar or something. He also takes over the islands.
Yeah. But then also, like, the British, they flee to North America.
Okay.
And then Benjamin Franklin was a turncoat.
I think they say Ben Franklin got Geassed by someone into betraying the revolution.
Jeez. So then how deep does the history with Geass and the royal family go?
I think Geass is just the show's convenient excuse to explain away everything that happens.
Well, but how far do you think Lelouch would have gotten without the Geass, right? Because he gets the Geass and he says that it like only drastically advances schedule. So it wasn't that he felt like he wouldn't be able to do it, but he wasn't really doing anything in his everyday life to get to that stage yet, right?
Almost everything he accomplishes is a direct or indirect result of having the power of Geass. During the Black Rebellion in the first episode, for example, if he doesn't Geass everyone who controls the floors and like the roads of the city where he gets them to all collapse,
right,
it would never happen.
Yeah, but he uses that tactic multiple times.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they use it again when he goes to save Ogi.
Yeah,
and his compatriots from being executed by Guilford. Isn't his name Guilford G. Guilford or something?
I just know him as Jeremiah Guilford. No,
Jeremiah Gao was a totally different guy.
No, which guy?
I think it's like I think his name was actually like Guilford P. Guilford.
Is it Cordelia's knight?
Yeah, because Cordelia's knight.
The one that Lelouch made him think was him.
Yeah, the one that pushes Lelouch out of the blast of the nuke.
Well, he does it because he thinks that Lelouch is Cordelia.
Yeah, and somehow he survives getting nuked, but whatever. Yeah, why were nukes never developed in the timeline of Code Geass?
That's not exactly the same technology either. There's fission involved.
Yes.
But
a flare seems a lot more advanced than a nuclear bomb.
It's pretty much just... Well, it also, like, disintegrates the ground, right? When nukes usually, they explode, but then, like, the ground is there, and then the deadliness comes from both the raw explosive power, but also the radioactivity, right? But I don't know if there's a lot of radioactivity involved.
Well, I think the flares, they just disintegrate matter.
Yeah, they just...
When they're launched, you don't see any debris or anything. It just disappears from existence.
The stuff just disappears.
And then there's like some vortex afterwards that sucks things into it. I don't know. Well, to bring it back to the original topic of the movies. So, right before then, they made those 3 Akito of the Rebellion movies.
Oh, those were not good.
Well, presumably, they must have done okay in terms of box office and Blu-ray and DVD sales if they are doing the exact same thing with making another 3-part movie series.
Well, but they also have to make the 3-part movie series in order to justify having the 4th movie.
Well, they could have just made a proper 3rd season. They didn't have to remake all of the movies.
Well, but they're not remaking them. They took footage from the TV show and they like remixed it in, and then they added some new scenes, right?
And they changed some of the plot,
but their animation, the animation quality has gone up for the new scenes, so you can tell immediately which scenes are new.
Well, something I will say about Akito of the Rebellion, the CG mech fights with the Alexanders look quite good.
They were dynamic and interesting.
They look better than the original series by a long shot. I don't really remember what happens in the show. There's that blonde chick, Layla, that's her name.
She has Geass.
What even is her Geass? She has like a blue... I don't really know what's going on. There's like that one guy. So there's
the guy's older brother.
There's Hyuga and his older brother.
And the older brother is part of Britannia.
Yes. And his Geass is he makes people kill themselves.
Yeah.
So he tries to order his brother to kill himself.
But his brother doesn't.
He doesn't understand what death is because he's too young or some shit.
Yeah.
So he doesn't kill himself.
Okay.
But then
the Geass enhances him because Kururugi.
Yeah. Right. I
Suzaku,
command you to live.
I command you to live, which is the opposite, but it enhances his ability to live because in situations involving death, it improves his
ability to survive.
His ability to survive, which he uses to defeat the Knight of Zero. But then Akito, he throws himself into combat situations and fights really savagely.
So his Geass lets him take over the brains of his comrades or something?
Well, that's because the mech system has they can sync their brainwaves or something. It's supposed to improve their performance. But then his brainwaves are Geass affected. So they all become Geass.
I think Geass was a lot better when it was not this complicated. When it was just, I can command you to do things, or I can hear people think, or I can change your memories, or I can see into the future.
Well, but if you have a power like that, and you have someone intelligent like Lelouch, eventually it's going to start getting exploited in ways that...
something to think about. We are older than Lelouch now. Lelouch is canonically 17 or 18.
Shit.
Or maybe he's even 16. Right, this kid is destroying a world superpower when he's in high school.
Well, he's really intelligent. We can't not say that. Oh, yeah, in the third Akito movie, right? The third...
the guy is...
Lelouch...
Okay. Well, they introduced... Yeah. I remember them introducing Lelouch. He's just really thirsty on a train for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do anything.
No, they introduced him, and then they brainwashed him. They tried to make use of him. And then he became a general or something, right?
And they called him Kingsley Shacklebolt or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Actually, no, Kingsley Shacklebolt's a fucking Harry Potter character, I think.
And then it was realized that he
was really thirsty.
First of all, he regains his memories for a bit because the movie is set canonically before R2.
Isn't it? It's in the period between the end of the Black Rebellion and the beginning of R2, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's in the EU war.
Yeah. So they tried to make use of him as Kingsley, but then he's still remembering his mannerisms as Zero because his plan to capture the main character Akito and his squad was to basically stage a rebellion that is very Black Knights-esque. Okay.
Yeah. So I remember this part in one of the movies where they paradrop into enemy lines by launching themselves into space, and they ride an ICBM around the globe until they end up behind the enemy lines. One of the older brother, I think his mech is called Vercingetorix, isn't it? I remember this.
Maybe.
Because for those of you who don't know, Vercingetorix was... So in ancient Rome, during Julius Caesar's conquest of Gaul, in the final part of the Gallic Wars, the Gauls stage a organized resistance around a man named Vercingetorix.
Okay.
So he was the leader of the Gauls in modern day France.
Well, I get the vague feeling.
Yeah,
he was gonna betray Britannia or something. He killed his father.
So they were Japanese, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, he was adopted into a noble family because he's the leader of some knight order, right?
Yes.
And then he does something vaguely bad to Britannia. I think he did something that's fucked up to his family, but I don't remember exactly what. I don't know.
I honestly remember so little from these movies. They were just so much of a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
I remember enjoying watching them. I just have no goddamn clue what happened.
I only really enjoyed the mech battles. I don't really think the plot around it. Like, I wasn't really interested in the characters, right? Because first of all, I knew all they were gonna lose. I mean, at the end of the movies, they go off to live with the gypsies or something.
Right. Well, I mean, we know from the original series that the Europeans lose the war. They get their ass kicked by Schneisel.
There's that romance between, like, Akito and Layla. Whatever.
I enjoyed Layla Malcal as a character.
Yeah,
that was
well,
the
I don't
only
think
part
the romance
I enjoyed
worked. Like,
was there a romance? I don't remember.
Akito's personality is, like... does he have a personality? I don't remember.
I think his personality is
he wants to
avenge his brother trying to kill everyone. I don't.
How interesting.
Well, the bottom line is these movies somehow did well enough that it convinced Sunrise that there's enough interest in the Code Geass franchise that they should create a third season of. Well, not a third season. I'm sorry. They should create a series of reboot films about Lelouch.
So what about I don't remember if we were talking about this before, but like, are there parallels between Code Geass and other stuff that Sunrise has done?
Well, I think
maybe like Gundam 00.
Gundam 00, I think had was like a prototype.
00.
I think it was 00.
It's double.
I don't know. What is this?
It's the one with
Celestial Being.
Celestial Being.
Well, Celestial Being's whole idea is their mechs are so good and so overpowered, they can just kick everyone's ass and intervene in any international conflict. So everyone lives in peace. Good. Because if they don't work in peace, then Celestial Being will kick their ass.
Hey, that's Damocles.
Yeah, it's Mora's. And then there's some nonsense about innovators and the next generation of humanity.
That's like in the second season, right?
It's been a while since I watched it.
The first season, I watched this summer. Maybe not this summer, but like,
I think
at least this year.
The Russian guy.
What about the Russian?
Yeah, I think he was my favorite character.
Which Russian guy?
The Russian guy.
The Russian general.
Yeah, the one. Yeah, that.
He was a sympathetic character because he wanted to serve his country.
And then
at the same time, he had morals.
His son kills him.
Right.
What an asshole.
Well, but then he was not good to his son. So then, like, it was some personal development for his son because he realized that he killed his father and he became like a less shitty person. He didn't forgive his father, but he realized that he understood better some of the things that his father did to him as a child.
But isn't it? Well, I mean, I think it's something related to their mother.
Yeah, what happened was he followed orders, and then by following the orders and not choosing to go save his mother,
I see.
Like, his mother died. He might not have been able to save his mother, but he didn't make that choice to go save.
Right, I'm trying to remember. And then like his kid, his name's like Anthony.
Yeah, and his kid
blames his father for getting his mother killed. Yeah. And then he joins the goddamn international Gestapo.
The international Gestapo.
I mean, that's literally what the Outlaws are.
Yeah.
They're just the international Gestapo.
Well, they needed the Celestial Being kind of needed a reason to come back, right? Because like the supercomputer Veda was planning out all the shit, right?
Yeah.
And then Celestial Being was going to fail eventually, but not before uniting the world. That was its purpose, right?
Okay.
But they united the world, and instead of like having a peaceful united world, you get Space Gestapo, okay? And Space Gestapo is no bueno.
So Celestial Being comes back.
So they come back. What do you think of the movie? Did you watch the movie?
Oh, were those freaky ass alien like?
They need an excuse to like have a mech force appear, right?
What even are the aliens? They're like some weird metallic thingies.
Yeah, they're like they're goop, basically.
Oh, the Mr. Bushido comes back in the movie.
Bushido.
And he dies in the movie, doesn't he?
Unfortunate.
What the heck's his name? Graham Stoker? No,
Aker.
Graham Stoker wrote Dracula.
No, Graham.
Wait, no,
Aker?
Bram Stoker wrote Dracula.
No, it's definitely Graham.
It's okay. It's something Graham.
Aker.
Oh, that's pretty close to Bram Stoker.
Okay, so you think that Gundam 00 was more of a prototype for Code Geass?
I think
they were definitely exploring some ideas.
Yeah, they explore similar ideas. I think Sunrise took some of the thematic elements from 00 and then they put them into Code Geass.
Yeah, and Code Geass, but Code Geass is so much else today, right?
I think
there's so much other
tonally
shit happened in Code Geass.
Well, tonally, I think what happened with Code Geass was, so the production committee sits down and like, all right, guys, people like high school, people like fan service, people like mechs. How do we put them all together?
And they managed to do it
in a pretty convincing manner. There are other shows in this genre that don't do a good job, like Infinite Stratos.
Those aren't even mechs.
No, they're mechs.
They're not mechs.
They're mechs.
Those are like power suits.
It's functionally the same thing.
Okay.
And I guess maybe...
Wait, I see the slippery slope of mech adaptations in anime. Okay, so we've seen multiple anime that try to like combine girls' high school and mechs, right? And the most successful, probably by far, unless we're missing something obvious, is Code Geass, right?
Well, I guess the first episodes of Darling in the Franxx.
I don't really think that's high school.
Well, I mean, it's like a post-apocalyptic
It's post-apocalyptic, but they're not really in high school.
I guess that's true.
They're not in the mindset.
Well, does Girls and Panzer count?
Mechs?
I mean, tanks are really just a primitive mech.
Yeah, but mechs are humanoid, and that's what makes... Like, when you watch mechs fight each other, a lot of the excitement comes from the fact that they have arms and legs and can do, like,
and they have
pseudo-martial arts.
I mean, in Girls and Panzer, the tanks are drifting around.
Okay, but then that's closer to Initial D. I can get my drift fix from... I can get my drift fix
Valvrave the Liberator? Ever watch that show?
I did watch that shit.
I have very faint memories of this show.
Vampires. Space vampires.
I don't remember a lot of what happens, but that does have high school, and that does have mechs in it.
They didn't do a good job of integrating it, though.
Macross well, then it's not really high school.
That's not really
That's Idol.
Yeah, mechs. That's Idol. Jeez, they're just jamming everything with mechs nowadays.
Just well, actually, no. I mean, the mech genre has declined a lot. There aren't that many mech shows.
Okay, but back to the decline of mechs. So, and then we've got Infinite Stratos, which they're wearing like power suits, which really aren't mechs anymore to me.
Okay.
Right? They're not large enough to be mechs. I haven't watched Strike Witches.
I haven't watched it either, but those are like also power suit-esque thingies.
Yeah, but that's like closer to Kantai
collection. Yeah, that's true. They're supposed to be
That's not really a mech.
No.
But then you can go down the slippery slope even more. And recently they released, like a few years ago, they released a show called the Undefeated Sky Chronicle Bahamut, which is shittier than Date Alive.
I've never heard of it.
You should not watch it. It's not good. I gave it a 4 out of 10.
I've never. I mean, I guess also the last probably like traditional Gundam show was Blooded Orphans.
I thought it was a good show.
I've never actually watched any of the original Gundam properties.
No, neither have I.
I've watched most of the alternate universe, right? 00 and Blooded Orphans.
Well, those are more standalone, so it's not as intimidating to get into those.
So, Blooded Orphans, my issue, especially with the ending, I really wanted McGillis Farid to succeed defeating whatever the hell the Gallahorn guy is called. I don't know what his name is.
Well, but his death was more historically accurate.
Like
a historian sat down and watched the show and said it was more in line with stuff that happens in history.
Well, most of the time, the revolutionaries don't succeed.
Yeah.
But this is an anime. It's not a historical drama.
Yeah, but part of the appeal of Gundam is that it's more gritty.
I guess so. I think it would have been a lot more satisfying if McGillis won and we got to see bits of his grand revolution to reform Gallahorn.
Okay, but if he succeeded, what sort of message would Sunrise be saying then? Because the show as it stands with McGillis failing after having betrayed like his best friend and screwing over the Blooded Orphans, the titular Blooded Orphans.
Did he really screw them over? I feel like he just...
They got screwed because they're Farid and...
Well, they wouldn't have gotten as far without McGillis' support.
But at one point, Orga and Farid are in a room, and Farid is like, I like you guys. I'm going to make you guys kings of Mars. Just come along with my revolution, right?
Well,
and then he loses.
Well, Farid was under the impression that once he awakened the ancient Gallahorn founder mech, everyone would just sort of flock to his banner.
Yeah, why
but then
the
they
fuck
didn't.
are the old mechs better than the new mechs? Because they're more powerful?
Well, I think you
It's
need like
It's the jack, right?
you need like the Alishka Vashkin, or the fuck they call the system.
Okay.
I think the Gallahorn characters are a lot less likable. Eok, terrible.
Well, he's just a terrible
I think he's
person.
supposed to be annoying.
He's antiquated in his time, right? He like follows the Kujan family tradition.
I remember when the show
honor.
was airing and all the Reddit posts,
just
it was
fuck
everyone just complaining about
Jesus Christ.
Idiok. Also, the guy who gets turned into the robot, Ein, I think it's
Ein? Oh yeah.
I
Sad.
didn't find his character that interesting either though.
His like superior gets killed in a mech fight, right, with the Iron Blooded Orphans, right?
Yeah.
And then he swears revenge, but the superior didn't want anyone to like swear revenge over him.
Wait, this is I remember right. It's in the first season, right? This
Yes.
is superior who like isn't a total dickweed.
Yeah, he's not a dickweed. He's like, you're such a young boy, Gundam driver dude.
Right, and then he can never defeat the kids because they're augmented with the biofeedback connection system. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Which is fucking illegal.
So he decides in order to defeat them, he needs to get his brain implanted inside of a mech.
Oh, he didn't get the brain. He got the surgery first.
Well, but somehow he ends up literally becoming a mech.
Oh yeah.
And then then Gailio pilots it, right?
Well, no, he doesn't. He dies, but then his brain
is put into the mech.
Is put into the mech, and then then the blue-haired.
Yeah, isn't his name Gailio, right?
Gailio, he pilots the mech, but really the mech is like on autopilot.
Yeah, and then I remember they beat the shit out of McGillis Farid in his Uber mech.
Sad.
I realize it's more accurate, it's more realistic, but I think it's worse from a narrative perspective.
Well, if you look at stuff like Code Geass, how much of that is realistic? Like, they still manage to achieve like some grittiness.
I don't think Code Geass, it's not realistic, but I think it comes off in a way that seems cleverly written and intelligent.
Yeah.
When the viewer watches Lelouch, they think, wow, this guy's so smart and he's so clever, but his plans work so well.
Sometimes.
Most of the time. Except when he orders a certain someone to kill all the Japanese.
Haha, that was out of character.
I think was that in the first or second season?
First season.
That's the first of like the shitty parts of Code Geass. They just couldn't find a way to progress the story anymore, so they just sat down and it's like, all right, what if Lelouch tells
Euphemia.
La Britannia? V Britannia?
Whatever.
Oh, so this is something fun. So I googled it. So
they're all different.
So there's the Lelouch V Britannia. There's Clovis La Britannia.
That's vaguely homosexual.
I think it's Snigel L Britannia. And what like the La, the V, what those are called nobility particles. Just a tidbit of inspiration.
Thank you for tuning in on our discussion of
Mecha extravaganza, I guess.
More like a sunrise.
Yeah.
Extravaganza.
The core Gundam audience probably thinks we're a bunch of filthy casuals, but what can you do?
It's okay. There's not a lot of hardcore Gundam fans out there.
I think there's a pretty large.
Right, please don't flame us.
Yeah, don't flame us for being casuals. We weren't born when the original Gundam the original Gundam Wing.
I did read some Gundam Wing manga when I was a kid.
Did you?
Yeah. I really thought, like, the one mech with all of the fucking guns in it, like, there's one mech with just, its gimmick was that it had a fuck ton of guns in it. But then once you ran out of ammunition, you just had like this one pocket knife thing on the left arm. I thought that was cool.
So I'm in Iron Blooded Orphans. It's explained as to why projectile weapons don't work on the Gundams.
Uh-huh.
I think there's some explanation universe about the alloy on the Gundams or something being impervious to bullets or some shit.
Okay.
Right, but they always use swords and spears and shit.
Wait, which one is this?
Well, in general, the Gundams, they're all equipped with spears and swords and like melee weapons.
Well, in the Iron Blooded Orphans universe, they never developed particle weapons.
Well,
It's
I mean,
more
there's
like-
that one Gundam that shoots the giant lasers, right?
Yeah, but that's like a banned weapon.
Right. So the Lancelot, right? It has its two sword things.
Yeah.
And then the
particle
Gurren
rings.
has its weird
Arm.
infrared radiation cannon.
It's more like a flamey, graspy arm.
And then you have Cornelius Gloucester with a giant ass spear.
Wow.
Right. No one just fucking shoot rockets. Well, actually, it's the Mordred shoots rockets. And then the Shinkiro has the big ass laser thing.
Yeah.
And so does the Gawain.
Yep.
Okay, I guess I'm just wrong about the
Yep.
melee weapons. Well, the melee weapons are always more effective though. The ranged weapons only ever work on the stupid grunts.
Well, that's why they're there. It's crowd control.
Right? They kill off all the irrelevant people. And then all of the main characters, they sit down and they lock swords with their Gundams and they go to town.
Well, that's more exciting.
I
than
guess
a
that's more
firefight.
down than having two people just hiding behind cover, taking turns exchanging fire with each other.